Hey, my friends, let's look at some small folding blades. It's been a little while since we've talked about small knives, and I think that there's really a lot of uses for these kind of knives because they're so easy to carry, and they're really not cumbersome at all. They don't really get in your way like a larger blade does. And so we tend to carry these types of blades just a lot more because it's just that much easier to deal with. Now, when it comes to like selecting a small blade, you can obviously select a blade within a multi-tool, or it could be a standalone knife, and that's up to you. You know, there's all kinds. I mean, there's some that have multiple blades, and obviously the ones that are just a standalone are probably the most common and popular, just because they could be a lot thinner, and sometimes those blades just have more options in terms of deployment styles and handle material and so forth. But there's just a lot out there. Now, a lot of times people ask me, like, what is your favorite and all this. It really depends on, for me, what I'm doing, and what I'm wearing. Recently, I just picked up this Dragonfly 2 in the Zome green, and I really like it. This is the original Dragonfly, and there's quite a few differences, especially the pocket clip and other differences. But I really like the Dragonfly 2. So I have to say, at this very moment, that's probably on the top of the list. But if I was looking for a blade that had other uses, obviously some type of Swiss Army knife really is going to probably be one of the best, in that class. But there's just so many options, and when we talk about small blades, I mean, there's some really small blades like micro keychain knives, up to maybe like the Shuffle 2, for example, by Kershaw, which some people don't really say that it would be in that category of small knives, but it really is. I mean, it's still a very small knife, and it's one of those things that it just depends on your hand sizes and everything else. Now, recently I also picked up this Robin 2, this bird knife from Spyderco, and it's very nice. It's just a little bit, I guess, beefier than a Dragonfly, but it's almost the same profile, if you will. So that's really nice. So if you're on a budget and you can't afford a Spyderco Dragonfly 2, you might want to look at the Robin 2. And so there's all kinds of other things here. We have like buck knives, these really small offerings. Maybe you'd want to go with a Dermasafe razor folding knife. Something, this is really small, super lightweight. You almost can't feel it in your hands. I'd say that's probably like less than a half an ounce. Definitely it's under an ounce. So you just got all kinds of things. You have automatic knives, push button automatic. This one's from Boker. We have another automatic here from Boker. There's all kinds. You got ball bearings in this Smith & Wesson. And so you kind of almost really need to try a few out. That's what I think that would be the best advice. Try a few things out. Or if you have a friend that has a few knives, it's even better if they have a larger knife collection, to just try things out and maybe even borrow the knife for a day or two, just to see how it works in everyday life. But certainly a small Swiss Army knife, something like the Dragonfly 2, it's going to really kind of be something that I kind of gravitate toward, especially recently. I just love those kind of tool sets and those form factors. It's very, very nice. So, over the years, I've really kind of switched and gone from one to another in terms of designs and features and blade steels. Sometimes I have been caught up a little bit on, what the blade steel is, but for the most part, in the course of carry throughout the day, I almost never find myself using the knife so much that I dull the blade. I mean, it's just, I don't even know if it's ever happened, actually. Now, maybe out in the woods, if I go camping, I have dulled the blade on a few knives in one 24-hour session. But that's, once again, camping. That's a different thing than just an everyday carry blade. So don't worry so much, even if it's a very inexpensive knife, even if it's just a low-end Gerber knife, or even just a generic no-name knife, like this little money clip. There's no name to this, but I tell you what, this uses 440 stainless steel. I don't really know much about, the specifics of how that blade steel was made, but I can tell you though, when you sharpen it up, appropriately, it works just fine, and I can go a good week before having to touch it up. So a lot of these blades can get you through more than a day, maybe even a week or two, so it just depends on how much you use them. But there's just so many different form factors, and there's also different prices. So there's a lot of things that are involved with picking a small folding knife. And so I thought maybe I'd just show you a few of mine here and, get the conversation rolling, because a lot of people ask me which small knife they should buy. And, it really depends on what you're going to be using it for. And, and I'd say start out with something that's quality. Even if you're on a budget, I would save a few more dollars and get something that you're going to be, proud to carry, and that you're going to be, liking what you see. If you don't like this Finch here, and to you, if it looks like it's just cheesy and whatever, don't buy this, But if you're like, wow, that looks like it's going to be ultra lightweight, which it is, and it's so small, I could just put that anywhere on my keys or in my my watch pocket, and it just would disappear, you would be correct. And it's something that little keychain knife works great. It does a great job. And for most tasks, for most people, that knife is probably all you need. Let's just be honest. So you don't really need to be fancy. And there's no reason to try to impress anybody, but there's a lot of people who do try to impress someone. And, if that's how you roll, then that's how you roll. But don't worry so much about trying to, get something that's, completely exotic. I know there's a lot of people who say, well, I won't buy something unless it's completely different than anybody else's. And I'm like, well, but what happens if you don't like that exotic knife? Maybe you like what someone else carries. There's nothing wrong with carrying the same thing, Sometimes some things just work better than others. It's like saying to someone, well, I'm not going to drive a car because I don't like circles, and so I don't want wheels because they're circles. I want squares instead. That's just ridiculous. If the circle is more effective, and it is, than squares, then why would you want to change that? And it's the same thing with certain types of blade grinds and different types of designs. Some things just work better in the human hand than others. And so I always try to, point that out a lot of times, because people are constantly trying to reinvent the wheel. And instead of trying to reinvent something, maybe you can just find what works and just accept it, that's what works, and just be okay with it. It's okay. If you look at the most successful people, it's not that they invented something totally mind-blowing. They just made something that was basically adapted from something that previously existed. They just made something better, not so much something that's completely new and original. It's just they made something that was already there better. And sometimes better is all you need. So, hey, thanks for checking this video out. I'll catch you later. Take care.